Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 6th episode of A Cup of Nepenthe, a positivity podcast to keep you sane during, I guess, Mondays, specifically, on your quarantining. Today, I'm joined by Cam, again. I think
you'll never be rid of me.
I think you're the one person who will end up getting the medal of most guest appearances by the end of this.
Wicked. I will wear that accolade with pride.
You can put it on your Twitter bio.
Yeah, man.
Apparently that's what I do.
Most guest appearances on A Cup of Nepenthe.
Yeah, I said to Bill when we did the quiz, the New Year's quiz that we did, you can put that in your bio, and then he did it. So his bio says permanent quiz champion or something. I don't know.
Incredible. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'd really needed a drink. That was a bit too enthusiastic.
That was a good bloop. That
that was a good bloop.
I hope that makes it in.
I'll leave it just for you.
Yes.
So I didn't record an episode last week because I didn't feel like it. There was no other reason apart from I didn't really feel like it.
And that's fine.
So I apologise if anyone was waiting on it. But I didn't want to do it. I just wanted a weekend to play Final Fantasy XIV, apparently. So that's what I did.
Hey man, you've got to allow yourself that sometimes. I've kind of spent the last couple of weekends making time for myself.
It's amazing.
It is awesome. Last weekend especially, and I'm kind of trying to find a balance with this weekend. I've got a few things that I want to get done, but I don't want to do what I did. With the last bank holiday, I booked a couple of days off, and I had 5 days in a row, and by the end of that 5 days, I was more exhausted than before I went off because I tried to cram so much into that span of time.
You did a lot in that time, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I really did. But it was worth it. Like, I rearranged the office, and it looks great. We did a lot of stuff in the flat, and I did some work on my streaming stuff, and yeah, it was good. It was worth it, but I need to chill out.
Yeah, just have a relaxing Final Fantasy Animal Crossing time this weekend. That's all you need. And
yeah, we finally
apparently.
Yeah, we finally have a Switch now, so that's what little free time we had left is gone.
Just amazing that you managed to get one.
I know. It was an absolute miracle. Emily just found it online by sheer chance. At retail price as well.
Is that what made you bite the fact that it was at retail price?
Yeah, it was 270 quid, and we were just like, we are not going to find this again at this price online. So we need to just do it. So yeah.
I'm so excited that you got a Switch, because now I can recommend you all of the games.
I know, right?
I'll be like, oh man, Fire Emblem, there's a Warriors game, and there's a main game, so you should play them.
Yes.
And you got it just in time for Xenoblade Chronicles, so there you go.
Hell, yes, we'll probably be late to the party on that one, but
yeah.
At least we have the ability to play it now.
I mean, anyone who's not played the game by now is technically late to the party. I was late to the party, because I wasn't a niche JRPG fan when it came to Wii games, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know.
That's the thing, because at the moment, everywhere's shut, and the only places that are, selling games locally, it's all the kind of obvious stuff that you would get with a Switch.
Like Mario Kart and stuff.
Yeah, whereas I'm kind of I don't really know what I want. We got Animal Crossing, and that's essentially all that it is at the moment, is an Animal Crossing machine, and a panel depont machine. I really liked that game when I was a kid, right? When I played it, it was Tetris Attack and not Panel Depon, but they're the same damn game. It's kind of like how, because on the SNES emulator on there as well, there's Puyo 2, which is just Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. I look at it and I'm like, wow, that marketing back in those days was a very different beast.
You should get Puyo Pop Tetris. It's Tetris and it's Puyo Pop.
I think I do need to. I reckon that's
really
one game
good.
that I would really enjoy. Yeah, there are a few, but I think for the majority of it, that's kind of Emily's machine that I'm happy with that.
Yeah, because she's got to play that Animal Crossing.
Yeah, man.
So how have you been over the last few weeks?
I've been good. Yeah, I've been. It's been a bit up and down the last couple of weeks. I'll be honest. This past 2 weeks has probably been the most challenging, and I don't really know why. I've just been getting like really stressed out, really feeling really vulnerable, and I think it's just, I don't know. A few things have happened, and I'm sure. Here we go. Immediately, this is why you invite me onto these podcasts, because Cam rolls in and not 15 minutes into the podcast, or 5 minutes into the podcast, he immediately starts to overshare. So
that content.
I have this really, and I've had it for a long time. I have a really, really strong complex about being left out, and it's a completely irrational complex. And it comes, I am assuming it comes from some deep-seated thing in my childhood. But I just get like these really irrational kind of fits of, why am I being left out of things when no one's doing it by choice. It's completely like, it's just normal relationships and the way that stuff works. But if I can't be involved in everything all the time, sometimes I get a bit upset about it, and it sucks because it makes me it basically makes me consider some really like unhealthy courses of behavior, and
right.
Yeah, like I used to be a bit of a shit person, at least in terms of like relationships and like how I would handle my my significant others in my life, and I used to kind of without realizing it and without intending to, I used to behave sometimes in what I would say is a pretty abusive way, not like a overtly horrible person thing, but it was just my insecurities, and that's ultimately when people get like that, they usually have some kind of deep-seated problems or insecurities. Not that I'm trying to explain away or excuse anyone who behaves like that. I think my thing is just if they don't realize they're being like that, then that's their problem.
Yeah.
And I'm quite fortunate in that about 10 years ago, I had a bit of a wake-up call, and I realized how toxic I was being, and then I've been spending the kind of last decade of my life trying to sort it out. But of course, it's not something that goes away easily. And I guess the point that I'm getting at is I reached a point earlier this week where that deep-seated insecurity and the fact that we've been in lockdown for 3 months now, it all just finally caught up with me. I was exhausted anyway because I've been like pushing myself maybe a bit too hard. So, I kind of reverted to some pretty manipulative and shitty ways to try and get attention. And fortunately, I kind of caught it immediately and went, I need to do something about this. But it's one of those things where it's difficult to catch that and stop it before you've done something stupid.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, it was, all in all, bit of a tough week, but by the end of this week, I now feel better than I have done in ages. One of the things that I was getting stressed out about is I was getting really mixed signals from my work about returning to the office.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I've kind of figured out, and one of the things that I kind of openly admitted on a stream that I did a couple of weeks ago, was that I'm terrified that my job is going to turn around and be like, right, back to the office now, and kind of unrelated to COVID-19 or whatever. I'm worried that it's going to essentially destroy everything that I've built up until this point, because on a very selfish level, I've kind of found a work-life balance that works really well for me, and I'm kind of thriving from that. But I realize that it's a completely unrelated thing. It's not connected to what's going on at all. It just so happens that by sheer coincidence, the lockdown is what made me realize that. So they're all talking about this, and they've kind of clarified their stance, and they're like, we still want people to stay at home. We're just getting preparations in place for when we are told that you can come back into the office.
Right.
Which
I don't imagine it will be anytime soon.
No,
right?
it's gonna be a couple of weeks at earliest, and even then it's gonna be phased return. I think we're gonna be split into two groups that do like a week in and a week out. So it'll be one group does a week in, they disinfect over the weekend, and then another group comes in. And then I'm just gonna have to have a separate conversation about the positive effects that working from home has had on my mental health. But it's at the same time though, it's not for everybody. Like I know people that are desperate to get back in the office, and more power to them. Like if that's what they need to kind of, be happy with what they're doing, then they should be allowed to. It's just, I guess I've learned a lot about myself and what I value through this time, and the idea of having that kind of taken away from me before I'm ready was pretty upsetting.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But that's all been sorted, and like I say, end of this week, work, home, everything, I feel great. Like, I feel the happiest and healthiest that I've been in a very long time. Like, a really long time. And it's weird.
Well, that's great, though.
I know. Like, I'm really chuffed about it. Like, it's almost like I've gone full circle, and maybe I needed to go through that really kind of low point to maybe realize how happy I am, actually.
What was it that Bob Ross said? You need to have the dark with the light, or otherwise the light doesn't show as well.
What a guy. Anyway, yeah, sorry, I nattered on for a while there. How are you?
I probably similarly had a really, really bad week last week, as in the week before this week that we're on now. Where I had the realization that I have some serious issues with grief still.
Okay, yeah.
Regarding both my sister and my stepdad, who both passed away last year, but my sister more specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that I self-referred to a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I need to talk to someone who is not involved in that situation, so I can get more of a perspective on it, I guess.
Yeah.
Because apparently something that's very common is the feeling, like when you're grieving for someone, the feeling of, that should have been me. Like, yes. I wish that had been me.
Yes.
Apparently that's really common.
Yes.
Which I didn't know. Because I've been feeling that way for probably about a year now. So I'm going to talk to a professional about it. I'm taking the advice that we did in that last podcast that we did together. And I self-referred myself, which is apparently a thing you can do, which I did not know. So if that is of interest to anyone, you can look for local resources in your area and self-refer if you need to. Because I didn't know that.
It's a very sensible step, and I'm glad to hear that you've done that, because I don't think you were ever really given a chance to do anything about it. And I mean, like you said yourself, you unfortunately sort of had the double whammy, and of course one was a lot more sudden, and so I can definitely empathize with kind of how you're feeling right now, and the fact that you've not really had a chance to process properly or talk to anyone about it.
I think part of it as well is that I didn't want to process it. Like, that was...
Well, no, why would you?
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to deal with it, because if I don't deal with it, then I'm fine. Like, whatever.
But that's also a very common reaction. You compartmentalize and you hide it away. But it comes out in unexpected ways.
It just came out because it was the stupidest thing. I made myself some noodles. I had it, like, literally a packet of cheap noodles with soy sauce in a bowl, and I was going up the stairs and I tripped over. The noodles went everywhere, the soy sauce went everywhere, the carpet's fucked. I'm looking at this and I just start crying, and I'm just like, this noodle situation has brought out every single feeling that I've been bottling up for the past year and a half.
It's all it takes sometimes. All it takes is you like stub your toe or something, and it just breaks. Like the mask shatters and everything comes out. And
I was like, okay, wasn't expecting that today, but I guess that's where we are. So I rang my GP and they said, oh, you can actually self-refer to this particular local therapist thing, and they will ring you. So they've rang me, we've organised an assessment, because I have to go through an assessment process, and then after that I will get whatever counselling they think I should have. So
good.
I took your advice, and my own, I guess. Because it's easy to go, oh, just talk to someone, but it's harder to talk to someone.
Yeah. Counselling is one of those really weird things as well, where you'll go in, or at least this is my experience. It could be different for other people. I've only ever had 4 counselling sessions in my life, but in those sessions I would go in, and obviously it depends on the person that you're with as well. But I felt like, I think I had an hour. I think my sessions were an hour and a half, and I always felt like kind of going through, they're not listening to me. Like I don't like I'm saying all this stuff, because the way that counselling usually works is they just get you to talk, right? So you'll say something. They'll kind of start off with, well, how are you feeling? And then you'll come out with like a piece of advice that Emily and I have both been given in the past is go in with a topic in mind. Never just go in empty. Think like, is there a specific thing that you want to talk about, which obviously you do, and talk about that. Focus on that, because you want to get the most out of your time as possible. So think about a specific thing that you want to talk about and lead in with that. And I mean, for me, the most part was stress about work. But either way, like, because they'll ask you how you're feeling and you start off, and then they'll essentially just continue to ask you follow-up questions and maybe offer some advice along the way. But it isn't until you kind of walk out of the session that you go, oh shit, I actually feel loads better.
Guess I'll find out what that's like soon.
Yeah, it sneaks up on you. It's really weird. And like I say, by the end of those sessions that I had, it was great. Like, I don't know, it's just a really profound thing. And I think it is just the benefit of talking to someone. Yeah.
I'm interested to see how it will be, because I'm imagining it will be different to the only other kind of like therapy I've ever had, which was cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes, yeah, it will be. It'll be different to that.
Because every time I came out of a CBT session, I felt like shit, and I don't know why. I just felt really bad, so I just stopped doing that.
Yeah, because the way that CBT works, as I understand it, is it's basically trying to rewire the associations in your brain, because your brain is ultimately an association machine, right?
Yeah.
This connects to this, connects to this, connects to this, which means if something gets kind of messed up, then your brain will start to associate completely unrelated stuff to things that it shouldn't, and it all gets tangled up in a bit of a mess. So CBT is kind of the process of realigning some of those things. But of course, in order to do that, you have to confront some pretty gnarly shit in your brain. Whereas, so yeah, CBT is a lot more intense. And you'll probably find that, not that counselling isn't intense, but you'll find it's much more conversational in kind of its structure, and it's very much led by you. And
I think I'm looking forward to it.
You won't know until you step in.
I'm just looking forward to like talking to someone who, like I said, is removed from the situation. So they'll, I hope, have I can give them an insight into what happened.
Well, yeah, and you can give them both barrels almost. You can just be completely unabridged in what you're saying, and who cares what they think, right? You're only gonna talk to them for, this is their job ultimately. So
I get an hour.
Yeah.
I don't know if I get any follow-up sessions after that, but they'll know that I'm there.
I imagine that'll be their discretion, or if you decide you don't need any more.
We'll find out. I'll keep you loosely updated. I will not go into details.
Well, obviously, because that's fair enough. But yeah, I would definitely like to know at least how you felt about it.
Yeah, I'm curious. I think I'm excited because I'm ready to stop feeling guilty every time I wake up in the morning. So that'll be nice.
Guilt is a bitch. It is quite possibly the single human emotion that I despise over all else. Guilt is evil. It is pure evil.
Really is.
I don't like. It's obviously it has its uses and it has its purposes, but it just the way that it can be weaponized, the things that it makes us do to ourselves. I hate it. I hate guilt as a concept.
It just feels like such a weird thing to feel when I know somewhere in my mind I shouldn't feel guilty, but at the front of my mind is, but yeah, you should feel like shit. You should feel like everything's your fault. And I know somewhere that it's not, but
I think the thing with me and guilt, right, is that it's all consuming. So you'll feel bad about one thing. Like sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and I'll be like, right, okay, I'm gonna do X, Y, Z, and then I don't do X, and then because I feel bad about not doing X, I'm so distracted that I don't do Y, and then I feel bad that I've not done Y, so I just go, oh fuck it, and then I don't do the other thing that I was meant to do either. It just becomes this black hole that draws everything into it, and it's just not healthy. Like to me there's like a distinct difference between kind of morality and understanding when you've done something wrong and taking steps to fix it, and then there's that. Yeah.
There's like guilt that makes sense, and then there's just
there's that. There's evil bullshit guilt. And like I say, it's that kind of guilt that can be weaponized as well, and it's the number one tool of abusers the world over. Because there are people out there that can sense it and they'll latch onto it and use it to drive you into the ground.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. So I'm glad that quarantine is when I figured that out, because no one can fucking talk to me. Anyway, moving on to the topic of today. We're going back a little bit to the last episode that you were on. I mentioned that I actually wanted to talk about boredom and how that might affect one's mental health in
So this is
quarantine.
like what episode was that? That
was episode 4.
So this is like episode 4 part 2.
Yeah. Like the Final Fantasy XV part 2 that I'll never get. So one question that someone asked me is, for a topic for this podcast, is how do you deal with boredom, because it's very easy to feel bored when you can't go out and you can't hang out with your friends and you can't even like reliably make plans to hang out with your friends. So my answer is video games, but I don't know if you have more of an insight than me.
It's difficult, right? Because everyone is different. And like everyone has their own like different interests and stuff. Because I could go through like my week, but that might not be interesting to somebody. The only thing that I can really think of to really help with boredom, because again, boredom is one of those things that becomes a bit of a black hole, because you'll end up in situations where you're sat there in your chair, like looking at your screen and going like, I don't know what to do. You mindlessly flick through YouTube, you mindlessly flick through Netflix, you're kind of looking at your game collection, DVDs, whatever, and being like, I don't know, I'm bored, but nothing here looks particularly appealing. And yeah, again, it's the boredom. You're so bored that you don't know what to do. Like you don't know how to solve the problem. And the only thing that I can really think, because I've not, like, this whole time that we've been in lockdown, I don't think I've ever felt bored.
Wow.
Yeah, which is crazy. Like, and I understand that that's like, I'm an exception. But I think really the biggest reason for that is I have a schedule, which is gonna, like, it sounds boring and it sounds daft, but you having structure to your days, even if you're like if you're not working for whatever reason, having some sort of loose structure to your day and having like maybe a checklist of things to do that you set the day before is probably, at least in my opinion, one of the best ways to conquer boredom. Because if you're coming up with an idea of list of things to do the day before, you go to bed kind of already setting up in your mind, right, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do X, Y, I'm going to do these things. And you kind of wake up with that being like, right, okay, I'm going to do these things. It's almost like you've already kind of prepared yourself for it. Yeah. Whereas I think if you're already in the bored situation, like I say, it kind of feeds itself. Once you're there, it's very hard to get out of. If you can stop yourself from getting there by making plans the day before, then it's a lot easier to not fall into that. So, like, for example, me today, I've got some, and it's only like little tinkery things that I need to do, like can do. But yeah, and like, I mean, it's very straightforward for us because we both stream on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So my life is kind of tailored around that right now. I also work full time, so there's that. So I've already kind of got a basic structure to my life already. Yeah. But just try and do it. Like, organize time with your friends and be like, right, hey, let's do a thing at this time on this day every week, and kind of block it in.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the only firm thing that I could really say, like, as a technique.
Yeah, I think the friends thing is a good idea, actually, because me and Kinross every Tuesday now pick a Disney film to watch on Disney Plus, and then we watch it together. So we mentioned this in the last episode. I think since then we watched The Lion King and we watched Mulan. That was fun. That was a fun time.
Mulan was, when I was a kid, I used to have this terrible habit of, if I had a movie that I liked on VHS or whatever, I would just
watch it over and over again?
Over and over and over and over again. I think it
I did the same thing.
Yeah, I think it drove my parents balmy. Like, I used to go over to my grandparents on my dad's side of the family, and they had a collection of Disney movies on VHS, and they had I didn't have it at home, but they had The Sword in the Stone. Yeah. So I would probably watch The Sword in the Stone like twice a week, because I'd go there and I just want to watch Sword in the Stone, and I'd watch it twice in one day.
That film. Maybe
so good.
Maybe we should make that one of the things that me and Kinross watch on Tuesdays.
Do it, man. It's awesome. It's yeah.
Which is why I kind of think that we should do the Witcher yes. watch party or something.
Because also it'll make us watch it. Because we're not kind of a series watching. It's not something that we do. Like, our friend Phil, the only reason that we started watching anime again was because we did like an anime club with Phil every Friday, and of course that's been sort of kiboshed now.
Yeah.
But it's one, like, I have been thinking maybe I should get in touch with him and be like, yo, do you want to just do this online for a couple of hours on a Friday night?
Yeah.
Because we plowed through some shows back then. We were watching shitloads of Black Clover, which is an awesome series that I recommend. We got through, like, I think we're almost... We got through, like, 70 episodes in, like, no time flat.
Oh my god.
It was because we ended up in a situation where it was like, we haven't really got anything to do. Let's watch some Black Clover. And I think what happened is Black Clover replaced YouTube for us, because we got into this really bad habit of just surfing YouTube, like, mindlessly and just consuming everything. And... Yeah, and we were like, well, we could do something else instead. We can actually watch things.
Yeah.
But we're not doing that right now. But I feel like I'm just too busy.
Maybe what we need to do is we have a Witcher watch party for the first episode. You'll like it so much that you'll just carry on watching it.
That's probably what will happen, to be honest. I think that's the thing with me is I'm very kind of hyper-focusy. Something will grab my attention, and then I will just drain every single last piece of life from it.
I'm like that, and then I talk about it, and people want me to stop, and I know they want me to stop, but they don't tell me, so I don't stop.
I do that, and then I just lose, and then I will suddenly, on like the turn of a screw, lose interest.
Yeah. And
I think I mentioned this on a stream. I think when I was having my feedback stream a couple of weeks ago. It's one of the reasons why I'm kind of really... I feel like Dungeons and Dragons is something that's really special, because it is the one thing that survived that.
Yeah.
Like, I got interested in it, and I was consuming it so much that I burnt out. Like, I was running 1 million games a week. I burnt out, and normally what happens is if I do that to myself, I lose interest, and I won't go back to it for months, maybe even years. With D&D, it took maybe 2 weeks. So I was like, oh shit, okay, this is something I need to keep close, because it doesn't matter how much I drive myself into the ground with it, my interest remains.
I think D&D is probably a little bit different to like a piece of media though, because it's so versatile, I guess.
Yeah. So maybe that's
one of the reasons.
I was talking again, same friend Phil. I was talking to him about it, and I said the thing is, because I've, as you mentioned before as well, I've recently started playing Final Fantasy XIV again, and 14 for me is one of those things where I'll start playing it and I'll get super obsessed with it for a few months. So let's say, for example, like Shadowbringers came out in June of last year, and I took a week off to play that, and then Emily and I just, like, it consumed our lives for maybe a good few months after that, and then suddenly I just lose all interest. But I always go back to it eventually. But it's been really nice to kind of start playing it again now in tandem with D&D, because I've now got two things that I really, really enjoy, but they work on my brain in very different ways. Like, I think D&D has been really good for my mental health for one reason, and that's that it's stimulating in a way that nothing else can be, right? And the fact that I'm kind of sat in the DM seat, and for that period of 3 hours, 4 hours or whatever, I am constantly like firing on all cylinders. It's like a high intensity workout for my brain, because I'm constantly like, for that 3 hours I am constantly thinking,
improvising all of the time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been fantastic for that reason. But now that I'm kind of going back into video games and Final Fantasy and stuff like that, it's nice to have that as a kind of when I want to take my foot off the gas and just do something a bit more chilled out.
Yeah.
That's the role that Final Fantasy fills. So kind of having those two pillars, as it were, like this last week when I've been juggling the two, has been really nice, because I can I've got that varying scale of engagement that I require. So that's the other thing, I guess, is the other thing I suppose I would suggest to stop you from kind of burning out and then ending up in a situation where you don't want to do anything and then getting bored about it, is have activities in your mind with varying degrees of kind of brain intensity.
Yeah, that is one of the reasons that I think Final Fantasy XIV has been kind of nice when I've been playing it on my own. I just walk around and just do a quest or two, and I don't have to think about it too much. Which is very different from a lot of other multiplayer games that have been in my life, like Overwatch. That's not mindless. It might seem it, but...
And I would say that something like Overwatch or like high-end, like super high-end Final Fantasy or anything like that hits different to something like D&D.
Oh, yeah.
In the sense that, like, I just feel like I've done like endgame content on Final Fantasy before, and it's just stressful. Like, I find it just really, like, it's great when you beat it, and it's a really good high. But I don't know, there's just it doesn't quite hit the same note that kind of having to be on my toes with D&D is. And I think part of the reason for that is because even if I do reach a point where I think I have no idea what I'm doing, there's no hope, this isn't salvageable, we're gonna have fun at the end of it. Like, it doesn't matter. We'll get to the end of the session and it'll still be like, yeah, we had a laugh.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been a time that I've played D&D that I've been like, well, that sucked.
Yeah. I have, but I'm obviously looking at it through a different lens.
Yeah. Well, you're always too harsh on yourself. Especially when it comes to DMing, I feel, because you're like, at the end of a session, sometimes you'll be like, I kind of wanted that to go a bit differently, or I wanted to do this a bit better, and we're like, yeah, but we had fun.
I feel like I'm getting better at that. Like, I haven't felt like that in a while. I think the only time recently that happened was with that one adventure where you were in jail, and I hadn't really thought it through, and
we destroyed that session.
God, that was an example of to kind of putting you guys in a situation and not really thinking about what your options were, and I don't know, it was a mess. Like, I think what it was is I locked myself into an idea and hadn't really considered it in much more detail than just what the idea was, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
But the thing is, it was still fun.
It was still fun. Yeah, exactly. What I'm getting at is play D&D.
Yeah, you should, honestly. Like, it's just a really good excuse to hang out with your friends.
Yeah.
At the, like, most basic level, you get to hang out with your friends, and you'll probably have fun. It's great. Also, in news of D&D-ish stuff, I did purchase a copy of the Witcher TRPG rule book thing. No, that's rule set. Rule set is the word I was going for. And that'll keep me at least mildly entertained for many, many months before I understand what that game is actually about. So
it really does. Like, I've only seen the character sheet, and it immediately strikes me as a lot more crunchy than 5th edition D&D.
Yeah, probably not my smartest move, if I'm going to be honest.
But the thing,
no one else was going to run The Witcher, so
yeah. And I mean, the thing is, though, with crunchy games, you can scale it back, right? If there's a mechanic that you don't really like, you can just be like, oh well, we'll deal with this in a slightly different way. Like, all tabletop role playing games are just frameworks at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can kind of cut things out or change things or do what you want as you like.
I think I'm definitely going to cut stuff out of The Witcher. Like, there's a mechanic in it that's every time you... Let me try and...
Oh, is this... Yeah, I think I know what you're going to say, yeah.
So, every time you don't dodge a hit, your armor takes damage, and the player has to keep track of how much armor damage they have on a specific piece of armor. Bear in mind, you have 3 different parts of armor that you can get hit on. If not more. I don't know. And when that breaks, you don't have armor anymore. Like, when it gets to 0... you're just walking around in fucking common clothes, I guess. I don't know. And you have to go and buy new armor, which is incredibly expensive. So, I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to keep the armor thing in there, if I'm being totally honest.
From what I can gather, it seems like The Witcher is kind of going for a gritty realism aspect.
Yeah, what was it? Where life is cheap and equipment's expensive or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which is, a lot of games do that. You can do it with D&D as well. Like you can make it quite unforgiving if you want it to. But I feel like it lends itself better to not being like that. But
well, the thing is, now that I have the rulebook, I can look through that, I can get inspiration, and if I really hate the system, I could still technically homebrew a Witcher game using 5th edition.
I mean, yeah,
so...
you could. I mean, you could do that with anything, really. Like Emily and I have joked before. It's one of those things where we go like, ha ha ha, unless with a Final Fantasy XIV kind of homebrew setting for a game, because Emily, like, if there's something that she knows inside out, it's the lore of Final Fantasy XIV. Like, she's far away ahead of me in terms of like what she knows and the level of detail that like she's invested in that world.
Yeah.
So that would be great, and I guess it wouldn't be very difficult to take one and put it in the other, because the classes kind of line up 1-to-1 almost. You would just have to say, like, if you're playing as a bard, you can only use a bow.
Yeah, no.
And things like that. But I think it would be interesting. But I think at the time when we were laughing about it, we were still quite new to 5th edition, so we were like, we should really kind of get to grips with that before we start butchering it.
I feel like you probably know 5th edition quite well by now.
I think so. I'd like to think so. But yeah,
now we go to 4th edition and Pathfinder.
No, I do have the 4th edition rules, which I should read at some point. Apparently, it's got some good stuff in it that was removed from 5th edition. That is worth like at least considering.
Interesting.
Yeah, like 4th edition isn't popular by any stretch of the imagination, because it made it was too quote unquote gamey.
Right.
But I think they just basically tried to make it more like an MMO in terms of the way it played and the way that everything seemed focused on combat. From what I gather, I'm
gonna be honest. My favorite thing about D&D is not the combat, so
yeah.
I don't know.
And you have to. I think to play 4th edition, you have to have a battle mat. Like you can't. It's all based on like miniatures.
Oh.
So you can't like do, or you probably can do Theatre of the Mind, but it's a lot more difficult.
I like the fact that I don't have to have a perfectly painted mini that I did for D&D.
Yeah.
That makes me very happy because
it's just it would be a very high barrier to entry, I think.
Yeah.
If it did.
If it was already... like... Well, now you just like buy a set of dice and hope that your DM's already bought a bunch of stuff on D&D Beyond, but...
Yeah. You just hope that your DM is nuts like me and just buys everything. Because he can't stop.
Oh, what's that? You want to play this class? Oh, I guess I gotta buy.
Oh, Theros comes out at the end of the week. I'm so excited.
Oh, what comes with that then?
It's a campaign setting. So you get like, there's a couple of new races. Like they've made like a satyr playable race. There's the Leonin that are like buff lion men.
Tundra.
Tundra. Nah, he's a tabaxi. I could make him a Leonin, but nah. And then character classes. There's the College of Eloquence, which is a bard college all about like I immediately just go Phoenix Wright. But it's more about like debating and talking than being a performer.
Oh.
And then there's the Paladin Oath of Heroism, which is one that I'm really excited for. It's a cool oath. There may also be something else that I'm forgetting, but those are the two that I know for definite are in it. And it's a D&D world that is based on a magic world, but it's all like based on like Greek and Roman mythology and stuff, and it's really cool.
Oh, that does sound kind of neat.
I'll show you some of the artwork later if you want. It's
Hell
all
yeah.
like there are like gods and demigods, and the gods are sweet because they're like partially, like they've got like stars and like galaxies and shit in them,
Oh my
and
God.
it just looks awesome.
None of them are gonna be as good as my boy Tyr, though. I don't know.
Hell yeah.
I don't know what it is about D&D, but for some reason I feel genuinely kind of an attachment to Tyr.
Well,
I don't know what magic that is, but he is.
He's your boy, and he's helping you out. You've both
made
got
me a paladin, you know.
Yeah, you've both got a common goal, and he's helping you, basically helping you help him get his friend back.
I really love D&D. We could probably make a whole D&D podcast, to be fair.
Sounds like this is what this is becoming. So
yeah.
maybe we should move on, because I know there are going to be some people that aren't as bothered about it, but
you should be bothered about it.
Just try it. Like, seriously, just try it. But try it with friends. Don't, like, obviously there are some people who you can go on like Roll20 and find a group, like find a pickup group and try it that way. But I do feel like that's a very different experience to playing with friends. There's a lot more anxiety involved, and you just get assholes a lot of the time as well. Like, I mean, you could get lucky, right? You could get lucky and you could find a really cool group of people. So I definitely wouldn't dissuade people from doing it. But if it's your first time playing D&D, you should probably play with people that you're close to, that you trust.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that was with me, right? Like, when I first started playing, my thing was I do not want to play with people that I don't trust implicitly. And it's only recently that I've started kind of opening the doors and being like reaching out to people. I'm still a ways off playing with complete strangers.
Oh yeah.
But like that'll come. I think my ultimate goal will be maybe when kind of everything has blown over and we start doing cons and stuff again. I would quite like to run a game at a con. I think that would be pretty fun.
Oh, like that JoJo's game that we signed up for and never went to.
We just didn't feel like it. I do feel
that
bad.
That would have been
now,
our first sort of like experience with it as well. To be fair,
we were considering it, and then I think we were hungover, and it was early in the day.
It was on Sunday as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of a bad time. I think the problem was as well is we wanted to play D&D, and I think we just kind of signed up for that because we couldn't play D&D.
Do it. I'll put myself on the backup list so you'll, have the chance to play with new people. But then if you need a backup player, then I'll
probably just run for you guys privately. So,
hell yeah! I just want to play more D&D. I have like one of the things that I really have found an enjoyment in doing for some reason lately is coming up with character ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Not backstories or anything, but being like, oh man, it'd be cool to play like this race, or I can't even think of one off the top of my head. I really kind of want to play a drow, but I don't know how I would do that because they can be a bit.
Yeah,
evil.
there are ways that you can. Well, I mean, and also like Emily and I have talked about this at length, and there's a lot of conversations going around online about kind of quote unquote evil races. Like, should they really be a thing? So
Let me play a bugbear.
Well, look at Wildmount, right? The Critical Role like setting. Drought aren't evil in that. I mean, orcs aren't evil in that setting either. It's just kind of a circumstantial thing rather than it's like born into you, whatever. There are ways around it. There's a guy in one of my campaigns that plays a drow, and they're not an evil society by any means. It was just that's based in a homebrew world, and the whole thing is just they are looked down on, but it's because there was a war between basically two rival factions, and it just so happened that the drow picked the faction that the rest of the elves weren't aligned with, so they are thought of as traitors in that regard. But
right.
But that war was a very long time ago, so people don't really care. If people did, it would be more of a storyline thing than just people's general reaction. I mean, like you know it firsthand that I've really gone to a lot of work to try and tone down the racism in my D&D settings, because it just didn't make me feel good. Like when you would enter a town, and then because obviously 2 of the 3 of you play tieflings, And the immediate thing that you would say is you're going in somewhere is, oh, they're going to hate us because we're tieflings. And I was just like, I don't want this to be in my game.
I love the fact that you made a bunch of like NPCs that are like, oh my god, a tiefling, that's so cool. And I'm like, my character is definitely sort of in love with one of them.
Yeah,
because he fucking wears horns.
Yeah, he cosplays as a tiefling.
He cosplays as a tiefling. He's just dude.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Some people might see that as disrespectful, but I guess you leave that.
It's cultural appropriation.
You leave it down to the character. He was just trying to do something interesting.
You do too many things with like innkeeps.
I just try and make my I just try and make my innkeepers really like wacky and strange.
One dresses as a tiefling. This one is haunted by ducks. Just
it's good times.
I'm gonna search out every single in every world that we ever go to now.
What was the point that I was getting at? What were we talking about?
We were talking about boredom, but then we talked about D&D for half an hour instead.
It's probably because it's the thing that we've used to kill our boredom for most of the time.
Yeah, which I understand as well is not like doable for everyone because I guess everyone's got a lot more free time. Well, not everyone. If you have, and that's the other thing that I would say as well. If you have one other person, you can play D&D. Yeah, Dragon of Ice by a Peak was free.
Dragon of Ice by a Peak is free right now. Not for long, but you can do it. Like if you go to, here we go, it's plug time. Go to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Croverload. There is an entire series where I play D&D one-on-one with Emily, and it's a bit more intense on the DM, but there's just two of you, so why does it matter? Like if you're a bit slower on the kind of having to work things out, and the point is you get together and you have fun. Like the first time that Emily and I tried playing D&D one-on-one, we were at Lake Vernwy for our anniversary, and we just kind of planned that we didn't have a lot to do because the weather was awful. And we sat down and we were like, let's just play some D&D. I hadn't really planned it, so it was terrible. Like the session was a complete mess. I was just like, oh, there's a well there. There's a blight in it. Oh, it attacks you. Rah. It was very kind of, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. But it's still, by the end of that session, we were both crying in each other's arms because a dog died, and we were both really sad about it.
That's the power of D&D.
Yeah, exactly. Like shit like that just happens sometimes. It was a shit game. Like for all intents and purposes, that was a shit game. But it was still a very kind of emotionally powerful thing. Yeah, it was very strange, but it was good. Highly recommend it. But again, and I think the other reason why it's good is it lends itself to scheduling, because you've got to have at least one other person to organize it with, and you block it out in certain times each day, and it kind of links me back to this idea of even if you don't have a job or kind of have any set plans, make a schedule for yourself. Get it kind of in your brain, because then you can look at the clock and be like, oh, right, okay. It doesn't have to be strict, right? You can just be like, in the morning I will do this, and in the afternoon I will do this. Because if you make it too strict, like I've tried to schedule myself before, and I made it really strict, and it just doesn't. It'll work for a bit, and then you'll get sick of it, like immediately. That was back when I was trying to cram so much stuff into my days. Like I was trying to cram like working full time, YouTube, going to the gym, kendo, video games, anime. Like I was just trying to do everything and trying to like apportion my time in such a way to make it work. It just all fell apart.
Yeah. I remember, here's the thing. There are certain things you can do to stop yourself from being bored. One of them that I think is bad is, it doesn't happen until November usually, but I guess whatever, time doesn't matter anymore. NaNoWriMo. Because you saying that reminded me of the almost meltdown you went through that one time you did NaNoWriMo in uni.
Yeah. I tried to forget about that.
There's making it so that you're not bored, and then there's over-pressuring and overworking yourself with everything that you do, and there has to be like a balance in between where you can turn off and just go, okay, I'm gonna do whatever. Like, I've done some creative hobby for a bit, but if I carry on doing that, it's not gonna be fun, so I'm gonna go and play video games, or I'm gonna go read a book, or I'm gonna go watch a TV show.
I remember that, because NaNoWriMo was the reason why I ended up doing a whole assignment and handing it in the span of half an hour. Because I'd prioritized NaNoWriMo over my own university work. I got a C though.
Well,
I don't know how.
Positive of the situation.
But yeah, it was that was a really, really stressful. I think I've still got it somewhere. I think I've still got what I've written somewhere. I think I've got it on a laptop, which I don't have a charger for.
So that's crowdfund a new charger for that laptop.
I could dig it out and then I'll read it and cringe horribly because it was bad.
Everything that anyone writes in NaNoWriMo is bad, if you want my honest opinion.
It was just shitty
fanfiction. That is not the optimal
fiction.
way to write a novel. And yes, but also, me and Emily talked about fanfiction. So, go listen to that episode, where we encourage everyone to write, even if it's bad fanfiction.
It was this weird. The concept was like, it was set in like kind of medieval fantasy sort of settings. So there was magic and stuff. And the idea was that the Earth, like the Earth as an entity, was really angry at everything that the human race was doing. So it created demons, and the idea was that demons kind of popped out of the ground. And
sounds very D&D campaign-y.
It was yeah. Now that you think about it, yeah, it kind of was. And like demons would come out of the ground, and their whole thing was like they were the antithesis to the human race, so they just existed to destroy them. And they usually had, they would have their names, like they were born with their names carved into their back, and their name was essentially like their function within that group, like what they would do. And it just happened that one of them popped up. Also like the size of their horns, or the amount of horns that they had, determined how powerful they were. And the main character was essentially this kid that popped out of the ground with like gigantic stag horns, who didn't want to do it. Like he just decided, oh, maybe they're not all bad, and it kind of went from there. I can't even really remember the plot too much, but he essentially had like this one guy that was trying to guide them in one direction, and then them being like, well, I want to make my own decisions, sort of thing.
Yeah, I like the premise though, that they just like pop out of the ground with fucking horns.
I came up with some cool moments, because his whole thing was like, because it was very anime as well. So like every demon had like an element associated with them, and his element was darkness because edgy. But there was like a thing where he ended up. I didn't get to this point in writing it, but when I was planning it out, there was a point where he got involved in a war. So like he made a friend with a human kid. And that kid ended up getting sent to war, and he just sort of went with him. And during the war, he just got like, he was kind of horrified by all the atrocities and stuff that were happening. It's like, why are people doing this to each other and whatever, and getting more and more angry. Yeah. And then during the like, as that was all going on, an eclipse happened, and his power was like completely based on like the phase of day and night. So he'd be more powerful during the day, quite weak during the day and more powerful during the night. And while the eclipse happened, he basically went completely apeshit. Because he could teleport through shadows and stuff. So the idea was that in that split second that the world was in complete darkness, he just like appeared in one of the commander's rooms and went, "What the fuck are you doing?" and just like beat the shit out of him. There was some. Oh, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I could do this now, and it would probably be like fun.
Pretty good, yeah. NaNoWriMo.
But yeah, it's very. You have to do like what, 2,000 words a day?
Yeah, I think it averages out to about 1,700 words a day,
which is a lot.
It doesn't sound like a lot when you get into the zone, but when you cannot get into that zone, It's impossible. Like, and then you feel really bad because you're going to miss your goal or whatever.
So, like, 1,700 words, if you divide that into... That's, give or take, it's about 250 words an hour, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Like, when you kind of, like, think about it as well. Like, if you're just sort of going... I think the idea is you're not meant to think about it, right? You just sort of go with the flow and... You're not
yeah,
really...
I think the idea of NaNoWriMo is not to make an award-winning novel, but just to write.
You come up with, like, an extremely rough draft, and then if you want to go back and tweak it afterwards, you can.
Yeah, I did NaNoWriMo not too long ago in terms of years, I guess probably about 3 years ago, and I smashed it. Like, I wrote about 75,000 words in that month.
Oh, nice. Yeah, cause
none of it was good, though.
Because isn't the idea, like, by the end of it, you have a 50,000 word... thing.
Novel, yeah.
Yeah. Which is a novella, I think. Like, it's considered a short novel.
Yeah, probably. It ain't no Lord of the Rings. Don't know why Lord of the Rings popped into my head, but there you go. So, yeah, in terms of boredom, my suggestion is always creativity. Write, draw a picture, play D&D. That's creativity, like me and Emily said.
Yep.
But don't overpressure yourself and have to do a full-time job and also NaNoWriMo and also, you know, live a life with the people around you and also have other hobbies, you know. Just indulge in your hobbies a little bit, but not too much.
You're allowed to have days as well where, I think definitely as well, plan, this is something that I need to beat into my head, is allow yourself time to do nothing as well. Because if you overpressure yourself, you will burn out, and then you just end up back at square one. And that's kind of, I had to force myself to do that last weekend. I was like, this Saturday, I have to do nothing. And yeah, it's really hard. And I think I didn't. I failed to do nothing that day. I have to potter.
Yeah.
But you need to do it. You got to give your brain a rest. And I think it's very difficult in these times, especially, to allow yourself to do that, because again, a lot of people feeling guilty, like stuck at home, feeling like, you know, I should really be doing something, but don't stop putting pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
Have a think and be like, is there a game on your shelf that you haven't finished yet that you always kind of felt like getting around to it? Crack it out, give it a go. Maybe you won't finish it, but that doesn't matter. But yeah, like creativity, structure, exercise as well. Like, not like, you don't have to go mental. Obviously be safe. But I've noticed that this week, definitely, like, Emily and I have made the effort to go out, even if it's just for like a half-hour walk every day.
Yeah.
It makes a difference. And I think the thing is, like, while you're out and you're walking, your mind thinks in a different way than if you're just kind of sat at home. And you might find that after you've been out and about for a bit, it shakes off some of the boredom rust, and you go like, oh, when I get home, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, I went out twice this week, actually. Which is 2 times more than the past maybe 3 weeks. Because I've not left the house in a super duper long time, apparently. And I look forward to the day where I can go outside and not have to wear a face mask. Definitely looking forward to that.
Emily and I got face masks in the post yesterday, and they're a little bit big. And it's very annoying.
I got one that's a little bit too big as well. But when I went to Japan, I had a cold sore, and I didn't want to walk around with this cold sore, so I just bought myself some face masks to sort of, like, pop on so that no one could see it. Mm-hmm. And I kept them for 5 years in a tin, and then suddenly it was incredibly, like, a great asset to have, if you will. So my hoarding tendencies came through for me in this one and only instance, because I don't think there's ever going to be another time where I need half of the stuff I have. But I'm working on the hoarding thing. But I'm glad I kept the face masks, because I very nearly threw them away at the end of last year. So.
Yeah.
But now, see, is that going to reaffirm to me? You should keep everything, you never know what's going to happen.
No. Like seriously, I've been looking at like as I've been like doing streaming and stuff like that. I threw away so much shit when I moved out of the Manchester City Centre, and it's shit that I really wish I hadn't now.
Oh.
Just like little things. I thought I'm never going to use this again, and lo and behold, I kind of want it now.
Yeah.
But these things happen. I think it's better to throw things away, because then if you kind of turn around and go, oh, I do need that again, it kind of stresses how important it is.
Yeah.
And just having lots of clutter just isn't healthy.
No. But I sure live in that cluttered lifestyle right
Yeah,
now.
man. That clutter life.
But I'm slow. Like, one of the things that I want to do this week to take away my boredom is I want to start taking pictures of things for eBay listings.
Mm-hmm.
So that, because we're getting towards the point now, I feel, where I'm going to be able to go out and go to the post office more often so I can redo all of my listings. So I just want to, like, take photos of everything, put them in a box, and then just have that box be my eBay box.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Like, I used to have
like spread out everywhere.
Yeah, I used to have a pile of like figures and stuff that would sit in the corner of my room, and that was this is my figures to sell pile. I really need to go through and sell all of my Magic the Gathering and Weisschwarz cards, because I don't play those games anymore.
Yeah.
I love Magic the Gathering, but I don't like, if I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna play either Arena, which is all digital, or I'm gonna play Commander, which I don't need millions upon millions of cards in a massive collection for.
Yeah.
I might as well. Like, I've got a lot of cards that are probably worth a fair bit of money. It's just, this would probably be the perfect time to do it, but it just looks like such a lot of work.
Yeah, I think doing something that big could probably be seen as quite a lot of work,
I think my plan, though, is kind of, again, like you say, when the post office is more accessible and maybe the postal service is a bit more reliable, just kind of maybe going through a bit at a time and just chip away at it. Maybe do like 5 lists. Like, it doesn't sound like, but maybe do like 5 listings a week or something, and just kind of slowly make my way through it.
Yeah, just don't overburden yourself with it, because eBay can be really, really stressful.
Yeah.
I make it sound like it's the hardest job in the world. It's not. But making sure that all of your listings are perfect and that you're listing everything in proper condition, and then you have to communicate with your buyers, and then your buyers don't get the item and you have to refund them even though they didn't pay for tracking or whatever.
Yeah, and sometimes buyers are just assholes as well. And the worst thing is sometimes you'll get people that just try things on. Like, a while back, I had, when I sold my Blackrock Shooter, my insane Blackrock Shooter Figma, I sold it for 150 quid. She paid for my capture card, but that Figma was a free gift. Well, not a free gift, but it came bundled with the Blackrock Shooter Blu-ray of like the original anime series, not the original anime series, the series that was on TV. Did
they want the Blu-ray by
They wanted,
as well?
yeah. They basically said, "Doesn't this come with a Blu-ray?" And I said, "No, the Figma comes with the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray doesn't come with the Figma." That was kind of difficult to explain, but it was that whole thing of, I said that and they didn't respond, which tells me that they were just trying it on to see if they could get a free Blu-ray out of me or something. I don't know.
You got to be so specific in your eBay listings as well, because it's like, okay, you have to say, if this was a bonus item, you have to say that it doesn't come with whatever it was a bonus item for. Yeah. So it's just.
And I think I was fortunate enough that I did put that in the listing. So but it might have just been the way that I worded it. Yeah, just be careful.
But yeah, I'm just sort of like surrounded by a bunch of stuff that I want to sell. I've decided that I'm going to get rid of basically all of my Figma.
I did that.
I don't have tons, but
the only Figma that I've kept, as you might have already seen, are my Berserk ones.
Yeah, I'll probably keep my Fire Emblem ones, and that's probably about it.
So I was like, they have value to me. Although putting them together and kind of getting them to stand up and stuff reminded me of why I hated Figmas.
They're a fucking nightmare.
They're
None
just
of
so
them ever look
fiddly.
good. Oh, I guess I'll keep my Zelda ones as well, because those are in the Delph, so I don't have to clean those very often.
Like, it was weird. Like, when I was younger, I used to really like Figmas because I thought they were kind of easier to pose and stuff. And I hated Revoltex because they're so clicky and like rigid. Now my thoughts are the complete opposite. Like, Revoltex are way better than Figmas because even though it takes a lot of effort to get them the way you want them, once they're there, they are not going anywhere. That pose is not changing. And I appreciate that more than maybe having slightly more fine control over something like a Figma.
Yeah, for sure. Man, I miss figure collecting, but I can't afford that hobby anymore. It's so expensive now.
Yeah, it's just extortionate now.
But I'm gonna sell one of my most expensive things that's grown in value, and I feel very conflicted about it because I know I'm not going to appreciate this specific figure that that I'm talking about as much as someone else, and it's worth a lot of money. And it's the Altair Archer figure from Fate Stay Night.
Oh yeah.
That comes with like the bow and the daggers, and it's a really nice figure. And I've enjoyed it. It's been great. But I don't even know where to store the box. The box is fucking huge, so I think it needs to go. I feel a bit sad about it.
that is the worst thing about figure collecting is all of the boxes. Like, I want to reach a point where I go, okay, I've sold all the figures that I want to sell. Everything that I've kept, I am happy with just getting rid of the box because I know that I'm either not going to sell it ever. Like, the only time that this is going to leave my house is if it breaks and I have to throw it away.
Right.
Or I'm content with selling it for like a quarter of its resale price, because I think sometimes it reaches a point where I have to go like, this thing has like, it's like eating, right? You pay for food, you eat the food, you like, that thing's value has been expended.
Yeah.
Like, there are certain things that do retain their value. Like, for example, I'd never get rid of the box for my Guts figure that's worth over, which is worth nearly, like, $3,000 at this point.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and it's because they don't... It's probably going to deflate soon. Because I know that it is... You can still buy it. Like, they've done a rerun of it recently.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, but with it being, like, one of the first ones, I reckon it's still going to... It's going to have collector's value, but I'm probably never going to get rid of it. Even so, I'm still going to keep the box.
That one you should definitely keep the box for.
Because that's the kind of thing that if I die, that is going to be worth a lot of money to someone, and could be valuable to them, or like if I have kids, and even if they're not interested, it could be like a worthwhile investment for them.
Yeah.
But other stuff like a figure that I spent 60 quid on 10 years ago, do I really need to make back the resale value on that? No. It's been in my room for 10 years. It's definitely, like, paid. It's, I've gotten the value out of it, so I'm happy selling it on for maybe 20 quid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the
you
trade-off...
gotta be prepared for that with figure collecting.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, when you buy the wrong shit. So.
The trade-off is I get to get rid of the box, which means that I've got more space.
Space is underrated.
It really is. Or just like a lack of clutter. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I look at the pile of boxes in the corner of this office, and it stresses me out.
You would probably have a heart attack if you saw my desk.
It used to be a lot worse than this. I used to have like 3 times the amount of boxes in the corner of this room, and I'm impressed that we even got it down this much. Anyway,
small things. There you go. Another thing to do to call you boredom. Organize.
Throw away all your boxes.
Yeah. Do some recycling. Help the planet.
Sort your room out. Like I rejigged the office, and it was a great experience.
I really kind of want to paint my room. I bought paint like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then last summer I was just too busy to paint my room.
I would do it sooner rather than later before it gets too hot to do it again.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we are on the cusp of summer.
I'm thinking maybe if I do just like one wall at a time, I could probably do it.
Yeah.
Because I live in a really fucking old house, and for some reason my walls get dusty.
Okay.
The ceilings are too high for me to dust my walls. So I don't know. I might do a wall and see how it goes.
Yeah. Do it.
That'll be my project.
Yeah, man.
Anyway.
Yes.
We've given you some ideas. I think the schedule thing is the best idea. If you've got things you need to do, make yourself a little list the day before you need to do them.
Yeah. One thing that I used to do, I don't do it so much anymore, but it was really helpful when I was really struggling to focus and get stuff done, was, I think I mentioned it right at the start, but just make yourself a small list. Just be like, well, before you go to bed the night before, just write down 3 things that you want to do the next day. And just the act of striking those things off the list is very rewarding in of itself.
You know, I'm going to try that. I'm going to do that today. I'm going to write myself a list of things to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
See how it goes.
I would recommend not doing, like, you can stretch to 4, but I wouldn't do more than 4. Because then it starts to get a bit unrealistic after that.
Mine are going to be like, put the recycling in the recycling bin.
Yeah.
Stream.
Yeah.
And play Final Fantasy for the rest of the day, you know.
That's cheating.
I might make a candle tomorrow.
That would be good, yeah.
Because I ran out of candles, so I might
it's
make a
things
candle.
like you got the list has got to kind of be things that you wouldn't do just anyway, like idly, right? So for us, it was things like this is when we were like Emily and I were both kind of in poor mental health, and we were struggling to do like everyday tasks. So it would be things like do the washing up.
Yeah.
Oh, mind has gone completely blank. Yeah. Do the washing up.
Put the laundry on.
Yeah, put the washing machine on, and I don't know, tidy up the bathroom.
Yeah.
And that would be the 3 things. And then once those 3 things are done, you can just be like, I can chill now.
To-do list. I'm doing it now.
But that's a very like loose. When I talk about scheduling, that counts. Like that's a very loose method of scheduling. It's just putting the thought in your mind, so that when you wake up the next day, you've already got a kind of a laundry list of things to do that you've already mentally prepared yourself for. And just from my personal experience, I find it very helpful.
I've got my to-do list for tomorrow, so I'll report back. I'll do it every day this week and see how it goes. See
Excellent.
How many things I tick off.
And if you're not feeling great, if you can't think of more than 2 things, just put 2 things. It doesn't, you don't have to do 3 things. I find that sometimes forcing yourself to come out with the 3rd thing does help. Like you can come up with some interesting stuff, but it's by no means required.
I've been meaning to make candles this entire time I've been in quarantine, and I've not done it. But I've run out of candles now, so I need to make my own.
I want to try making soap. There you go. That's my odd thing. Emily and I watched a YouTube video about soap, in medieval times, and I kind of want to. It's a very simple process apparently, and I kind of want to give it a go.
Do it.
Yeah, maybe I'll try that next time we go shopping. I'll get some bits and bobs.
Yeah, I don't feel like you need massive safety gear that you can't buy right now to make soap, so... Which is the problem with resin. Can you buy gloves? Fuck no.
No. Yeah.
Though I did go to the chemist yesterday, which is one of the reasons that I left the house. I went to the chemist, and they were actually selling gloves there.
Wow. But I suppose, I guess the shortages aren't as bad as they were when everything first kicked off.
Oh my god, we went to Morrison's, and anything that I wanted, I could have. Like, that's the first time I've been to the supermarket in 2.5 months, I think. We had an online order which didn't have a bunch of stuff in that I really wanted. I wanted corn chicken nuggies more than I wanted life. Did I get those? I didn't get the nuggies in that online order, but I went into Morrison's, And guess who got some fucking nuggies? Me. I got them. They're mine now. I was very excited about the nuggies.
Well, I'm very glad that you were able to
Sound it.
obtain the nuggies of... Nah, man, that's something that I would be excited about. So, Emily and I tried yesterday. What were they? They were corn... They were like chili and corn fritters with butternut squash. And I think they had something else in them. The upshot is they were very nice. And they were very cheap. Gluten and meat free, which is a rarity.
Sick.
And yeah,
there we go. Next time I come to see you.
They were very nice. I'm hungry now. Let's wrap this up so I can have some lunch.
All right. So I don't know that was actually helpful advice, but we killed an hour and 20 minutes of your day by talking about
listen
stuff,
listen to podcasts.
Listen to me talk for an hour and 30 minutes. Also watch my streams. Okay, so
they are pretty good.
I updated my layout. That was the thing I did to kill my boredom. I finally did a layout. It's not very good, but it's a start. And that's all that matters right now.
Your new Be Right Back screen is amazing. So
I was trying to think of what to put in that empty space. So I went with my Stitches emote, and then I started writing out this quote, and I'm like, no, he'd talk in Comic Sans. He would talk in Comic Sans. So I put a little quote from Stitches on there in Comic Sans.
Incredible.
It made me happy. I'm going to make a special one for Octopath.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that later. That's on my to-do list of today.
Are you streaming later? Well, by later, I mean when we're recording this.
No, I'm going to stream tomorrow though.
That's fine. I can never.
I want to play Final Fantasy today, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, I do as well.
Let's do that.
Song
recommendations.
I'm gonna have some lunch. I've got some bits and bobs that I need to do. I want to plan a YouTube video.
Hell yeah.
But then when I'm done with all of that, I'm gonna jump on Final Fantasy, I think.
You can help me do my leveling roulette for the day. Right, song recommendations. We can get through the rest of this stuff pretty quick, so
yes, and I will very quickly jump in on the topic of Final Fantasy. You can get the I can't remember what it's called, but it's like the starter bundle. It's free at the moment. Which I think is just I think you can get the base game for free right now, yeah.
Well, there you go. Perfect opportunity to jump right into the world of Eorzea.
Eorzeal. And you can come onto the Midgard Zorma server and say hi to me. And Ebby.
I'll be there sometimes.
I'll help you out. I'm level 80 on all three of the primary roles, so I can help you out with whatever you want.
Thank God.
Because I play far too much of that game.
I need to do some more main story quests, so I'm going to do that.
Yes, you do.
While I wait for you to help me.
No, we'll get you caught up on Archer, and then you can do main story as Archer.
Yes.
Archer.
Although, I think I'm about the right level now.
Well, you go.
I'm either there or I'm not far off. I'll have to check.
And you'll find is if you do main story and do your roulettes alongside main story, you will level up like nobody's business. And as soon as you hit 50, it just gets even faster from there.
I cannot wait to hit 50.
Because the more once you hit level 50, you'll start unlocking more roulettes, which means that the more time you have to invest, the faster you level up. It's stupid.
Oh, that's exciting.
It's good though. Like our friend Paul, he hasn't even on one of his characters, he hasn't even started the new expansion, and they're already level 80.
Oh my God. All right then.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, song recommendations. I went with a different theme for this episode. So usually I pick specific songs, but this time I have picked 3 video game soundtracks for you to put on in the background as you do your to-do list and, whatever it is that you're doing. So, first one of my favourite soundtracks of all time, Fire Emblem Awakening. It's
pretty good.
Really good. You should listen to it. It's got my favourite song from that, Conquest, and Conquest Ablaze. They're both very good. Second, I think this is more of a chill I don't even know how to describe the music that's in this game. Final Fantasy XV. It's got some bluesy... Sounds like I'm stopping off at a gas station in the middle of Texas. I don't know. It's got some good chilled out songs on there. There's a remix of the Chocobo theme that's all like harmonica and bluesy. Listen to it, it's good. And the last one, specifically for Bill, if you feel like you want to visit mainland China, but you can't right now, the Shenmue 3 soundtrack is very good. I've been enjoying that a lot, and I don't know why. I've never played Shenmue 3. I've literally just watched Bill play it, and it was a joy. It's always been a joy. So, there you go. That's my song recommendations for the week. Links to playlists of all of those soundtracks in the description. So,
yeah.
Right. There are no free things to do this week. Instead,
except play Final Fantasy.
Except play Final Fantasy, apparently. But one thing that's cool that's happening in the UK that's similar to the online vendor thing that we talked about in the last episode is MCM LDN Online. So MCM London got cancelled for the second time,
R.I.P.
I guess. So it's been cancelled, and if you search this hashtag on Twitter, there are a bunch of artists who are running sales right now. By the time this episode goes out, I think most of the sales will have ended. However, you can still go and see some... Yeah,
I'm sure people will continue to use it.
Oh, probably. They should, because the visibility that I've gotten on artists over the last day has been pretty good. I've bought myself 2 things so far. I bought myself a little keyring that says Wizard's Chocobo post on it. It's from Final Fantasy XV, and it's cute, and I liked that. And then I found a pin, and I don't think I've ever, gotten emotional about a pin badge before, but I saw this pin badge, and I was like, I have to have it. It's a little pin badge that says Chronic Warrior on it, and it's meant to empower people who have chronic illnesses, of which I have 2, and I thought it was so cool that I had to buy one, so I did.
Excellent.
And there's a lot of D&D stuff.
Yep.
Probably some anime stuff, I don't know. Just check out the hashtag, go and support some artists.
We, if you find any Final Fantasy XIV stuff, let me and Emily know, because for some reason nobody does. It's really weird. Like every expo or anything that we've been to, we found one artist that was selling a couple of bits and bobs, but nothing that really kind of caught our attention. There was one
weird.
They drew an old Japanese styley kind of drawing of the Great Serpent of Ronka, which was incredible, but it wasn't what we were looking for. But yeah, it is really odd. There's a lot of stuff on Etsy, but yeah, it just, I don't know. I feel like enough people play 14 that we would see more of it.
There should be a really big fan art community that make it. It's
really odd. But yeah, keep an eye out for that and let me know.
Yeah. Also, if you see any Prompto stuff, any Fire Emblem stuff, shout at me. Although Alan did link me to a Claude keyring that I'm really on the fence about buying, because I don't know if I need it, but I might. I don't know.
You never need keyrings.
But my Eater bag.
No, that's a blanket statement. That's not just to you. That's to everyone. You never need a keyring.
But my Eater bag. What if I had a Claude insert? If it was
I think I've had more keyrings and charms in my life than I've had hot dinners.
Oh, look at this pin badge that I bought. You have 7,000. Why did you buy another one? Anyway, go support some artists. They're probably doing okay right now, but go support some artists from the UK this time.
Yeah, they're probably doing okay, but they have been massively screwed over by the cancellation of these events, because that's where the majority of their income comes from. Artists will make a bit from online sales, but the visibility and the immediacy of face-to-face sales at those events is extremely important.
Did I ever tell you how much money I don't know if you remember the last Amicon we went to. There was a booth that was very specifically a lot of Fire Emblem prints and
Yes,
stuff.
I remember that artist.
I can't remember the artist's name. And I ended up spending a lot of money at those ones. I think the only stuff I bought that weekend really was from that stall, because I spent literally my entire budget there.
It's good though.
So the face-to-face thing really does work. It's just easier to get eyes and stuff. Apparently also this weekend, there is a thing called EmblemCon going on online, which is a Fire Emblem convention.
Well, hey.
So I will be looking through the artists that are in their thing. So that's going to be a lot of fun. For me, not for my bank account. So yeah, support your artists. That's all. Support your artists. Say this as much as I can.
Commission my wife. Do it.
Yes. I need more people to commission Emily, because I want to see more of her artwork.
She's currently saving up for a graphics tablet. Well, no, she's only saving up for like a tablet PC that she can do artwork on, which will be like on a purely selfish level will mean that I can stop carting my PC from the office to the living room when I'm working from home. Because I really, every time I move it, I'm worried that I'm going to do something and it's just going to break. So for my sanity, please commission my wife.
Twitter.com/AEBros.
AEBros, 3 Ys.
I definitely want to get Emily on again to talk about more art stuff, because people seem to really enjoy that episode. So
good.
The last thing we have for today is the good news of the episode. So we mentioned before, I talked about Captain Tom Moore, who wanted to raise, I think, £1,000 before his 100th birthday by walking laps of his garden. He, so far, has raised £32 million for the NHS. So, really smashed that goal. And he apparently either is or will be knighted very, very soon.
Good.
For being a badass and raising so much money.
Yeah, if you want like a textbook definition of what a badass is,
Captain Tom Moore.
Yeah.
He sounds like a really sweet guy, to be honest. You know, there's just something to me that's so nice about seeing someone who is old doing something so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if that sounds ageist or anything, but there's just something about, you know, they don't have the ability that they used to have, but they're still doing their part. Love it.
It's the I've seen an interesting kind of topic floating around on the internet of the I can't remember what the name for it is, but the whole idea of people doing things that is of no immediate benefit to them, like a thing that you do which is only helping other people. And the analogy that's used is shopping trolleys, and the idea of you can measure how selfless a person is based on whether or not they return their trolley to the kind of trolley yard or whatever you want to call it after they're done shopping, because that is an action that does not benefit them in any way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just it is I think you can just leave it at the front of the thing. You can just kind of dump it somewhere. You can do whatever, but like it's kind of the easiest example of like a purely selfless act. Like yeah, there's an expectation there, but no one's going to force you. And I guess that kind of I guess to me it kind of hits a similar note in that this is a person who really, like, it's not what they're doing isn't helping them at all, and they're going like, what benefit is he going to get from giving all this money to the NHS? Not a whole lot that he wouldn't have gotten anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fantastic. Like I guess you could argue that the like he's kind of gotten a lot of attention over it and all
I
that
don't
kind
think
of
that
stuff.
was the
But,
intent, though.
well, no, exactly, and that's the point, isn't it? So yeah, good lad.
Yeah. Congratulations, Captain Tom Moore, Sir Captain Tom Moore. I don't know. So, to recap, support your artists, make a checklist, do something creative, play a video game, be nice to yourself, and talk to your doctor if you need to.
Yes, and have some lunch.
Yeah, I could go for some.
Emily and I yesterday, right? We so I can't drink milk, yeah, because my stomach is made out of paper, but I can drink oat milk, right? And we found that Oatly do a oat-based chocolate milk drink.
Oh my god!
We had some this morning, and it was fucking awesome. So I'm gonna have some more of that, I think.
It's the little things.
It really is.
It's the little things right now. So appreciate the little things, and yeah, I'll see you next week for another episode of A Cup of Nepenthe. So thanks so much for listening. Thank you for joining me.
Hope you enjoyed your cup of Nepenthe today. No, thank you for having me on again. I'm really surprised that you're not sick of me by this point, but no,
I've not been sick of you for the last 10 years, so there you go. Also, today's cup of Nepenthe is lactose free, just for those of you.
Does it normally have milk in it?
I mean, what do you think? She's very white, so I would say there's probably a lot of milk in whatever Nepenthe is.
She's very smooth. The way she talks to Boredom, she's a very smooth operator.
That's not true.
Anyway, yeah, stay safe, everyone.
Yeah.
I hope you are well, remain well, or are doing what you can to become well. And yeah, all the best.
And we'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay sane, same as usual.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I almost just dropped out of the call instead of stopping Audacity.
I nearly did. I think I've actually done that before in a podcast recording.